I am so against electrolytes and all the media hype, but there is only one case where I suggest use of electrolytes.
Siân Seccombe is a leading voice in women's nutrition and an endurance runner. In this episode, we break down what on earth is going on with all these running influencer injuries, how to properly fuel yourself, and why you could be harming your body without even realising.
Our hormones don't work the same as men. If you put a woman on a fasted cardio program where you're making her intermittently fast, in 3 months' time, I will look at her blood work and be like, oh, heck, we've got a big problem here. I'm not a fan of counting, measuring, weighing food, and I don't think it's helpful for most people.
If any of the audience can find one single person who is like a reputable scientific person who is pro electrolytes, send them my way.
Anything over an hour and 15, we want to be taking on a source of quick, easily digestible carbohydrates. Fasted cardio, you're not doing yourself any favours. A girl running sub 4 is absolutely not the same thing as a guy running sub 4.
For the girlies who are scared of carbs, for the girlies who have felt the pressures of diet culture, is there any advice that you can give them?
Yeah.
But first, please don't forget to subscribe or leave a 5-star review. It really helps us keep bringing you guests that help you live a happier, healthier life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Siân Seccombe, and you're listening to Her Discussions podcast.
Siân, our community have sent in so many questions about running influencer injuries, energy, and how to fuel yourself properly for exercise. But first, I love starting with asking our guests what it is that brought them to this place in their career, because I think there's nothing more powerful than hearing women talk about what they're passionate about. So what is your day-to-day and why are you so passionate about it?
Honestly, any reason to talk about women fueling themselves and eating carbohydrate, I'm there for it, because that's something that I'm so passionate about, is actually that we have to fuel our lives for what we want out of them. And for me, that comes from a sports angle. So I'm a sports nutritionist and I'm a RED specialist, which is relative energy deficiency in sport. So I work with a lot of endurance athletes who are struggling to meet their energy demands, which might have ended up with them being injured or, struggling just to meet what they need to go around their daily life, really. Because it's not just the running, it actually impacts everything. And I think that's something that people often forget when we're talking about fueling and sport, is that it's not just that, it is the whole life that this will affect. And I think for me, coming from a place of a background of, I was super sporty when I grew up. Like, I was that kid who was on every single team just because I loved it. I loved being outside. I loved running around. And my mum was also a dietitian. So I grew up knowing a lot around food and cooking a lot, and kind of food was a big thing in our house. But then kind of translating that and growing up, I had an athletics coach who told me if I ate a bagel every night before I went to bed, that I would be a better runner. And I just latched onto it. And honestly, if you could probably see now how much I talk about bagels, that's where the bagel thing comes from. But yeah, it definitely kind of hooked my brain into going, okay, there's something here. It's not just sport life. There is actually a lot more to it to get what I want out of things.
I really thought that you were going to say something toxic about that coach. So when you said that he wanted you to have a bagel every night, my heart, someone encouraging female athletes to eat properly, that's really lovely. And I think goes against a lot of the narratives that women are taught.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I was really lucky that I had someone being like, oh, eat more, because I did go on to have a pretty complicated relationship with food. And actually, my relationship with running and coming back into it and then being able to appreciate it even more is actually something why I'm now so passionate about going and helping other people with that. Because I speak to a lot of kids and things who are going through athletics programs and actually trying to encourage them. Like, that's such a powerful point where we can, stop girls dropping out of sport. We can change the narrative of how they then go on to have a relationship with their body, all through the way that we're looking at food versus fuel versus, all the other layers to eating, really.
It's really nice that we've got you on the podcast, because as an athletic girlie who's always been athletic, because I represent the girlies who would use any excuse to get out of PE. By the time I was hitting 16, I don't think I did any of my PE lessons, unless it was dodgeball, which I found quite fun. And then I got into quite a toxic relationship with the gym when I first started uni. I suddenly had control of what I was eating. My parents weren't feeding me food, and that I was like, oh, if I skip breakfast, suddenly I lose weight. guys, I'm not giving that as advice now. I do eat breakfast every single day. And I went, oh, if I go to the gym every day, oh, I'm noticing these changes. Then what happened is I underfueled. I didn't enjoy exercise. It became really arduous for me. And I consistently, through the entirety of my life, my adult life, have gone through periods of exercising, you know, around the marathon this time last year, and then will not exercise for months. And then I will exercise consistently for a month, and then I will not exercise for months again. At this point right now, I do not think I've done any exercise for the last, other than a long walk, for the last 2 months, which is abysmal and awful for my health and absolutely against everything I preach about on this podcast. But where that relationship with exercise for me is complex, it's quite closely linked to my relationship with food and my body. And I do notice that when I get into a habit with my exercise and I start looking at myself in the mirror and I go, oh, I notice these changes, I do slip back into those old habits of, you know, being more restrictive. And, you know, that's a whole other issue to unpack. But the reason I brought it up in the first place was because I remember the first time that I went to the gym with my boyfriend, and my boyfriend was like, do you want a snack before the gym? And I was like, no, I don't want a snack before the gym. And he goes, have a snack before the gym. And I was like, no, I don't want a snack before the gym. Like, I had lunch. And he said, have a banana before the gym, please, Faye. Have something to eat. And he just seemed he was a bit confused and a little bit stressed. He was like, we're going to the gym in an hour or like half an hour or whatever. Have a banana. You know?
I love this from him.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, Jesus, like, stop trying to push this banana on me, Jesus. Okay. So I have this banana. And then I went to the gym, and the gym was so much more enjoyable because I had sugar in my bloodstream. Yeah. I'm really excited to talk to you about techniques for the girlies who, like yourself, have been athletic all their lives and how they can handle this, but also for the girlies who maybe they have this more challenging relationship with exercise and movement. But before we come on to all of that wonderful stuff, we have got a section called Buy or Bye Bye. Now, I am going to show you a product, and you are going to tell me whether you would buy this product or whether you would say bye-bye to it.
Perfect.
So, energy gels.
Obsessed, yes. I have cupboards full.
Nice.
So important when we are doing long endurance sport. Anything over, I say, like, tend to go an hour and 15. We want to be taking on a source of quick, easily digestible carbohydrates. And look, I know energy gels get like a really bad name and sometimes people really don't like them. You can replace this with a Squares bar if you're cycling, might be fine. Sweets, you know, drinks, Lucozade, sports drinks, but a form of carbohydrate, because our bodies aren't capable of keeping going and going and going. So yes to energy gels.
I had a funny situation with when I was doing my London Marathon last year. And one of my consultants that I worked for, she was an ultra girly.
Nice.
She was an ultra girly. She was a quick runner. Yeah. I say girly, she was a middle-aged woman, you know. And she said, Faye, if you don't like gels, I've got these sweets that I really like personally. Okay. So she sent me the Amazon link and I bought these gels and I went on my long run and I had like one of these sweets. So I was doing every 5 kilometres. Okay. Is that about every half an hour?
Yeah, we're aiming to hit at least 50 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour. So depending on what you're using, whether it's gels or sweets, it's actually looking at the grams of carbs and going, okay, how do I then translate this into how many do I need and how often do I need them?
So that's a really important point from Siân that I could have used this time last year, because I had one, I was doing it in my head. I was doing every half an hour. Yeah. Okay. So for long runs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I popped a sweet after half an hour, next half an hour, and it was on my 32-kilometre run. It's like the longest run you do before your marathon. Okay. And I was absolutely wrecked. Oh my God. It was, I mean, your 32K run is awful anyway, but I was so wrecked. Anyway, I went into work on Monday morning and I said, those sweets, they were awful. And then she goes, how many did you have?
Yeah.
And I said, I had one. And she said, you meant to have 8.
Yeah.
8 per half an hour. And I went, oh, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. And that's one of the big mistakes people use when they're using sweets instead of gels. So it's actually maybe we combine them with the gels and do like one gel and then, 7 or 8 sweets. It's not just like one sweet. So things like strawberry laces, if you look on the back of the packet, to hit 50 grams of carbs with strawberry laces, it's basically the whole bag per hour. So it's going, actually, the translation. And that's why gels are great, because they're small, they're compact, they're easy to carry. Like, can you imagine doing a marathon with like 6 packets of strawberry laces?
Yeah.
You'd be chewing the whole way through. So yeah, it's actually going, it's more actually about the amount of carbohydrate you're getting. But we can do that in lots of different ways. And it's about what works for you as a runner.
How many jelly babies do you know roughly?
Oh, I think it's a lot. You know, like Squashums, the 2-colour sweets?
Yes.
That's like 2/3 of a packet an hour. Haribo's is about half a bag an hour. It's not small amounts. Like mini Serene bars, it's 3 an hour. So if we're replacing, we've got to up the amount.
Got to be honest, I'm going to get your gel recommendations from you in a second. But I really struggled with the gels.
Yeah.
So, but I found sultanas and I could really quickly shove them in my mouth.
Yeah.
The stickiness was sub-ideal, but I love sultanas.
Yeah.
Love sultanas.
Yeah, lots of people really like dates as well.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to watch is the fibre, because there's quite a lot of fibre in dried fruit. So it's going, maybe if you try to do all 5 or however long the marathon's going to take you, if you're going to try and do all your hours on sultanas, you're probably going to end up in the Portaloo not having a great time. But we could, alternate that. So like we could go sultanas, then we could go sweets, then we could go one gel. And it's like mixing between to go, okay, we don't want to overload our system, but also just practicing in your runs and seeing actually what you enjoy eating, what you could carry, what tastes good. And also at the end of the day, having as much as you possibly can is better than having nothing, right? I would far rather someone had something than nothing.
It honestly felt like I was hallucinating for the last 10 kilometres of the marathon, but I was telling my boyfriend basically every 10 minutes, maybe even I was just chugging a gel because I was closing the stable door after the horses bolted. Yeah. But I just thought, you just need to get through this. Is there too much? Would that have been too much?
Well, so the kind of problem there is what we want to do with when we're taking on gels and things during running is remember that we're fueling forwards.
Yeah.
So we're not fueling to make up for what we've just done.
Yeah.
We're fueling to put energy in our tank for what we're about to do. So it's I was supposed to say it's kind of like putting petrol in a car. You put the petrol in, then you drive, not the other way around. So in a marathon and in any kind of endurance sport, it's really important to start fueling early, because also the way that the blood sugar works with our brain, our glycogen stores, our body would much rather early on in the race, our brain's going, we're so fine. We've got this, it's fine. And that's actually one of the effects of the gels and the sugar, right? That it's telling our body it's safe. But in terms of being able to overdo it, so when I'm saying it's great if you hit 50 to 60 grams, we know that people can hit 120 grams an hour, like elite athletes, that's how much they take on. And honestly, you still wouldn't have been having anywhere near as much as 120 grams of carbs an hour. So you can't really, it's very difficult to overdo it. And actually, the way your body responds, you wouldn't be overdoing it. So it's just, like you say though, whatever is going to get you through that last 10K, absolutely do it.
Yeah, it was really fighting for my life. Gels, recommendations. Do you have your top favourites?
So there's quite a few different ones I use. I actually use a mixture at the moment because a big thing is kind of taste fatigue and texture fatigue. So during a marathon, when you're having to take 7, 8 gels, mixing between different brands can really help you get them down because you're not taking them the same one every time and the textures are weird. You also want to look at the grams of carbohydrates. So some have 20 grams. So then you're needing to take 3 an hour, whereas others have 40 grams, which is great. But you've got to practice to know that your stomach can handle taking 40 grams in one go.
Yeah.
So it's actually going, right, do I like them liquid or chewy? So if you like them really liquid, high five are quite good, or cis beta fuel. Whereas if you like them a bit thicker, Morton, Precision Fuel are good. And then that you can go, oh, well, should I switch it up with maybe I like something super sweet and really runny? So that's when the kind of the maple syrup gels come in and things like Sap, and the natural ones like Hilltop Honey. So it's actually just looking at all these brands available and just try them all out and just literally go, there is no right or wrong answer. It's what works for you as a runner, and actually just go with them in that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, fab. Electrolytes.
I could get on a really high horse about electrolytes.
No, do it, because I have got passionate about electrolytes before.
I am so against electrolytes and all the media hype and all the all of it. It's the biggest scam ever.
If any of the audience can find one single person who is a reputable scientific person who is pro electrolytes, send them my way, because I would love to put them on the podcast, because I cannot find any,
Yeah.
I have my personal reasons. Explain your reasons for being anti-electrolytes.
So there is only one case where I suggest use of electrolytes, and that is if you are exercising and doing kind of ultra endurance. So when we're exercising for over 90 minutes and we're taking on water, we do need some form of sodium because of the way that our body absorbs water. There's something called hyponatremia, which is basically where we get too diluted, we want to avoid. There is a case for sodium only in those cases. But if you are exercising for that long, you should also be taking on carbohydrate. And actually, most carbohydrate sources, a lot of them do have a form of sodium in them. So then actually that's then negating the reason for like an additional electrolyte. But again, in super endurance, that's a different ballpark. That's not who all these electrolyte companies are marketing at. Those people have got it covered. They know what they're doing. They work with sports nutritionists. Our day-to-day people who are being sold these very, very, very expensive packets of table salt, which are the cheapest thing to manufacture, being sold these things that are going to magically cure your brain fog, your blah, 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 all this long list of things. And then people go, oh, I feel so much better for having my electrolytes in the morning. It's like, no, you just drank a glass of water.
Yeah.
That's what's actually happening here. And some of these sachets have got a huge amount of sodium and salt in them, which you would never put on your food because, God bless the government guidelines of we've been trying to get people to have less salt for years. And I honestly do think in 5 years' time, we will have a massive blood pressure issue in people our age group who've taken loads of electrolytes when they've done a 45-minute gym workout, stood at a desk all day, drunk 2 bottles because that's what they were told. And I just have so many issues with it. Like,
I did a TikTok where I said it's salt rebranded.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were told for the last decade to not put too much salt on our food, not eat too much salt. And now we're being, sold it in sachets. You made a really good point about who these products are marketed to.
Yeah.
They are marketed to the general public. Because when I made that TikTok, one of the comments was, but for people with POTS, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
For people with POTS, it is a treatment for POTS. We're not talking about that. We are talking about everyday Tom, Dick and Harry being sold this.
Yeah. And it is. It's almost using this as like targeting people's weaknesses of everyone wants to have less brain fog and feel more energized. And honestly, I feel like some of these electrolyte boxes are basically being like, I'm going to make you a better person.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is not. It's not healthy just because someone says it's healthy. We have to look at the whole environment. And there's a lot of things about electrolytes.
There's been some marketing recently where my friends who are doctors have sent it in our doctors group chat. Not going to name names on the brand, but I'm sure everyone actually can guess the brand.
Yeah.
It's a very big brand that has been launched recently, prominent brand. I just want people to know that when the marketing, it's been working.
Yeah.
It works.
Exactly. And honestly, the number of times I'll do a talk and I'll get so many questions about electrolytes.
Yeah.
And it 5 years ago, no one had heard of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, actually, this has clearly we need to be aware this is coming from a place that is not trying to help people be happy and healthy. It's going, oh, this is a really cheap product we can manufacture in bulk and make loads of money off.
Yeah.
So like,
I would say after a long run, or after, dare I say, and I'm not promoting alcohol consumption by saying this, but when myself and my boyfriend are hungover, we will do, and maybe it's placebo, maybe it's not, because your body is a bit more dehydrated. We will do a pinch of salt with like a lemon in for the morning, and we will do that as like a lot less salt content than the electrolytes.
Yeah.
But a little bit of salty water probably does help the water get into your cells a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
A little bit of lemon juice, and it kind of does a nice little bit of flavouring.
Yeah. And that's such a good point though, of like, it helps you rehydrate a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And in those cases, that can be useful. And also you will probably then naturally put less salt on your food because you've gone, oh, well, I've had some salt today, so I don't need to we're balancing it across the day. Whereas can you imagine you're pouring a huge amount of salt in your water bottle and then probably got salt in your food. There's so much salt there.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of all the kind of trace electrolytes that then the marketing pulls on. We're getting loads in our food.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can leave. We can say, wave to the electrolytes as they sail off into the sunset.
What's the most important thing about Buy or Buy Buy as a section? What makes me extremely passionate about it is remembering that we are living in a cost of living crisis. Mm-hmm. People have finite resources. If you say yes to electrolytes, is that coming out of your budget to buy leafy greens, to buy whole foods? And
Yeah.
I think when we do buy or buy, we recognize that by saying yes to something, you are saying no to something else, because we unfortunately don't live with infinite funds.
Yeah.
So when we say bye-bye to electrolytes, we say bye-bye to people wasting their money.
Absolutely. I'm so here for that.
Yeah. Fasted cardio.
Makes me cry. Please don't. Please, please, please. If you take nothing else from this episode, it's that just please don't do fasted cardio.
I'm dying to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah.
I heard a podcast recently where it was a woman talking about how fasted cardio is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, what she had found was that it was meant that women who were busier were saying, oh, I can't exercise because I haven't eaten. And then they just weren't exercising anyway. And it twigged with me because I was like, oh, when I did realise that exercising without eating was bad,
Yeah.
I did just stop exercising because I couldn't fit it into my schedule. So fasted cardio.
Yeah.
A, why is it bad?
Yeah.
B, can you help me solve my dilemma, please?
I have so many solutions.
Yay!
It's my job.
Yay!
So fasted cardio, especially for women, is really, really not helpful for our overall health. So firstly, it has a massive effect on our hormones. So when we wake up, our cortisol naturally rises. It's a good thing. We want that. But we don't want it to keep going up and up and up and up and up. And actually, by doing fasted cardio, your body doesn't know if it's running away from a lion or, you're doing this by choice. Like, your body doesn't know. It just puts your body in a stress state.
Yeah.
And actually doing that, rinse and repeating, especially if you're then opening a laptop straight away, you're rushing to work, you've just got emails firing at you, you are so stressed, your body, again, it doesn't know what the reality is going on. It just knows there's stress there. And that's where we see that over the long term, it can have a real impact on your hormones, on reproductive hormones, on bone health, also on energy availability. So firstly, when you're doing fasted cardio, you're missing an eating window. So you're already on the back foot of how much energy your body needs in a day, because I can guarantee it's a lot more than you think it is. And there's also evidence that energy availability within a day, so we call it within day LEA, so how much energy has gone in versus how much has gone out. In women across a day, having massive dips in energy availability, even if you eat enough in total, can actually have an effect on your hormones and how that they work. Yeah.
Can we just pause right here, right now? And this is my poor boyfriend gets poor fiance gets rinsed on this podcast because my fiance is a gym boy.
Yeah.
He was part of the era of calories in, calories out, gym bro science. Okay?
Fine. Love that for him. Whatever.
He's an intelligent boy, but we have this argument all the time. And I tell him, Dylan, calories in, calories out, it is not the be all and end all. There is so much more complexities. And we have had the intermittent fasting trend where it doesn't matter how much you eat, when you eat it, as long as you're in a calorie deficit. That is the only thing, whatever. Or as long as you're eating, how many calories you're eating in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Is the most important thing. Sean is saying, for women especially, carry on. Sorry, I just had to interject.
Because it is, and it's this whole, like, we've been sold all this science for so long of, like, you hear one person say, oh, the science shows this.
Yeah,
in 27 highly trained men. Like, this is not the population that we're looking at. And they're not the people who suffer from this. Because I guarantee if you put a woman on a fasted cardio program where you're making her intermittently fast, in 3 months' time, I will look at her blood work and be like, oh, heck, we've got a big problem here. Because our hormones don't work the same as men. Like, they've got 24 hours, we've got 28 days. Yeah. And actually, our hormones are a lot more complex and a lot more sensitive to energy availability. Because if you think, right, we've evolved through eras where if there was not enough food around and we were in a highly stressed state, that meant there was a famine and our bodies were at war, there was something bad going on. Having a baby would be the last most problematic thing ever. And our bodies are obsessed with survival. Like, they are super smart. They've got loads of things, levers they can pull, things they can turn off. And if your body's sensing that everything's really stressful, there's loads of danger around, there's not enough food, it's going to go, right, so baby's problematic. That's where we then start seeing the effect on female hormones. And fasted cardio, we know, is one of the things that massively impacts this. And I often get men, challenging me, going, well, there's no science. Yeah, ethically, I'm not going to study this ethically, like make loads of women fast cardio and then like not be able to have children. But we know, working with people who are recovering from this, as soon as we stop fasted cardio, actually for some people that can trigger their hormone cycle to come back straight away. And we know definitely that within day, low energy availability, so that kind of peaks and trough of energy, if you think you kind of have your bucket right, if you pour out everything from your bucket, you've got nothing. Your body's then got ages. If it's waiting for you to eat and put energy back in before it can actually do anything, it's just having to sit there going, oh God, like what's going on? What's going to happen next? I don't know. I don't understand. I'm stressed. And then at that point, your body's not functioning optimally. Like you're going to feel brain fog. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel confused. Your blood sugar is going to be all over the place.
And that's not fixed by electrolytes, guys.
No, it's absolutely not. Like that's fundamentally fixed by carbohydrate. So it's actually going fasted cardio. You're not doing yourself any favors. So let's just not do that, guys. Like, let's really avoid it. But like you say, it doesn't have to be really complex. And I'm not saying that you have to eat a full breakfast before you go to the gym in the morning or Pilates or whatever your exercise of choice is, it's fine. Even if it's just before you go for a walk, even if you have a date to start off with, if you're not used to having anything, just try a date or half a banana, just some orange juice. 300 mils of orange juice has 30 grams of carbs in. That's fantastic. That's a great amount of carbs. Like it could be one crumpet. It could be something really easy. It could be a squares bar. It's actually just starting small, and doing anything is better than nothing. And when you look at your routine in the morning, often we find actually you probably can fit something. Yeah, you will be able to fit something in. Even if it's like you wake up and there is a squares bar sat next to you on your bed. It's already there. You know, all you got to do is you're putting your leggings on and the squares bar goes in your mouth. Like actually things like that. So we're looking for fast digesting carbohydrate. So we don't want protein, we don't want high fat, and we don't need high fiber. So it's just going, okay, I know that I need something that's going to digest quickly and give me some energy. This is my range of options. They don't have to be full meals.
Can you tell me the truth on this? Because I feel that when I was growing up, we were told don't eat too close to exercise. However, 10 years later, I am running a marathon eating some Haribos.
Yeah.
Like if I had a glass of orange juice and then it's 15 minutes walk for me to get to the gym, then is that okay?
So it's all about our bodies being individual.
Okay.
And actually every body is different. And you can also train your gut. So gut training is a huge part of marathon training. It's a huge part of sport training. And it also being able to eat before exercise is again something you can train yourself to do. And we very much know that this is a thing, and like gut tolerance around exercise is something we can train. So it's going, okay, where am I now? And where do I want to get to? And how am I going to get there slowly? So I used to not be able to eat very close to running, whereas now I can literally eat a bagel and peanut butter and a banana and then be running an intense session 45 minutes later. But I used to have to leave that 2 hours. So it's firstly looking at the intensity of your exercise. So the lower intensity, the closer to it you'll be able to eat and your stomach will be able to handle it. And then if it is a more intense session, you might need to leave a little bit longer. But what you can do is you can start going, okay, so that felt fine. I had a squares bar and I left it 45 minutes. That felt fine. Okay, maybe next time I try 40 minutes and see how that feels. And you can like work up and close that gap down. So it's all just about seeing where you are now, testing that out. And then if it doesn't work, you just nudge it back a bit. Or if you try something, doesn't sit right, try something else. Like if the banana didn't work, try the orange juice. That didn't work, try the dates. Like it's all using yourself as a little experiment of one. Like it's kind of fun in that way.
Nice. Okay, so for the girlies listening who they want to try it out, and for me, me also, would my orange juice 15 to 20 minutes before a mid-intensity workout, would that be a good starting point? And then if it doesn't work, do you think that's a good starting point to try?
Yeah, okay. Definitely. Or a squares bar is kind of the same comparative. Because some people, it depends. If you're jumping up and down, the orange juice can feel a bit sloshy. I used to get that when I used to play netball. I used to get like water bottle belly, I used to call it. Like you feel it sloshing around. But if you were doing, say, a reformer Pilates class, where actually you're not jumping, that would be because you're not sloshing around, if that makes sense. So that's another good thing to think about. Okay, like what movements am I doing? How do I feel? Do I want something solid or liquid? I'm going from there. But yeah, starting, I would generally say, half a banana, half an hour out is a good place. The orange juice, generally people can tolerate closer to the exercise. So yeah, it's just starting with those and then see how you go.
Nice. And we've had a couple of nutritionists on, and they've been telling us, fiber, whole foods, all this nutrition advice. So for the listeners who are listening, I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I don't bring this up, because I think that's the worst thing about health. Some health advice is often you get so much contradictory advice. Where do these quick digestible carbs fit into an overall healthy diet when we're told don't have ultra processed foods, try whole grains as much as possible, try high fiber?
Yeah. So when we're kind of looking at active populations and we're looking at performance nutrition, we're looking at a different use case to the general pop. So when we have an active population, all these guidelines in terms of have X amount of energy a day, blah, 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 they actually don't apply to a general population. But what does still apply is we want a balanced diet, we want fiber, we want protein, we want all this range of food, but it's all about timing. And I always say that there's no such thing as a bad food. There's no such thing as bad food. There's just different food we want at different times. So actually remembering that when we're exercising, our body processes glucose, it responds to insulin very differently to how it would be with us sat here right now. So like, am I going to smash a gel right now and sit here? Like, probably not. It's not great. But if I'm about to go and do a run, is having a gel really great? Yeah, it's absolutely fabulous. And it's also going, okay, a steak with, loads of spinach and potatoes as a balanced meal, fantastic. Do I want that before my run? No, absolutely not. So it's going, okay, in this situation, we have different foods at different times. So our fiber, our whole grains, our protein, we save for after exercise. And then before exercise is where we're looking at these fast digesting carbs. So we're going for the white bagels, the honey, the jam, the banana, things like that. And then we're not having protein and high fiber beforehand, because that's just really not going to help us, because it's firstly not giving us the energy we need. It's going to make that window between eating and exercising even longer, because the whole idea of adding fiber and fat is that we make a meal digest slower and it keeps us satiated for a long time. That's not what we want before we run. So it's just looking at, okay, what is the goal right now? So therefore, what nutritional choice is going to help me reach it?
I'm sure a lot of the audience will be able to resonate with this, where I just found myself in this paralysis state when there's seemingly health advice that feels difficult to navigate, which is the main reason why the podcast exists. But on one hand, there was, fasted cardio is bad.
Yeah.
Well, I know I did have time, but I felt like, but then I don't know what to eat, because I've been told that actually we need all this time, and actually I've been told that we need to eat whole foods and fiber, and all that ended up happening was I didn't do anything. And like, you've made a really important point that ultra processed non-whole food and then doing a run is so much more healthy than not doing the run at all, because exercise is so beneficial for every single health outcome that exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, like, also the worst diet for a runner is fundamentally one that doesn't have enough energy in it. Like, that is fundamentally the base of our nutritional pyramid, is that we are having enough. And actually, if you're training for a marathon, how on earth are you going to get the amount of energy and nutrition you need without having fast digesting carbohydrates? Like, they are genuinely a nutritional tool that we need to use to be as healthy as we can possibly be when we're asking our body to do something like train for endurance sport or things like that. And it's kind of going, okay, so if I'm zooming out on my diet, we're not focusing on one particular meal, one particular moment, because we're also not matching output to input, because our bodies aren't calculators. Zooming out with that helicopter view, overall, do I have a diet that is balanced and healthy? And not healthy in like the green juice way, healthy in the way of, is it enough? Is it enough energy for my body? Am I hitting all of my macronutrients? Like, have I got sufficient carbs? Have I got some protein? As a side note, no one will be deficient in protein. Like, that's also a marketing ploy. Fiber, have we got a huge rainbow on our plates? Because actually, the more colours you can get on your plate, the more antioxidants, the more vitamins. And that's all going to support your recovery. It's going to support your body. And then, have you got healthy fats in there? Because actually, having nutrition before you exercise doesn't negate or exclude any of those things. We're just having them at a different point in our day and a different point in our diet.
And I think for a lot of girlies who have grown up with diet culture, that can be the addition mindset when we've been constantly told by society to restrict, can be really difficult to welcome into our lives.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to talk about that a little bit more a little bit later on. Oh, well, we've touched on this, but protein shakes.
Protein shakes, I don't hate them. Can there be nuance to them? I think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nuance is all. I love nuance. There's not enough nuance.
Because the thing with protein shakes is they can be a useful nutritional tool, but it's understanding the context of where they are useful. So if someone's saying to me, oh, I'm about to go and exercise, I'm having a protein shake before I go, I'm going to go, oh, don't do that. Like that's not actually helping you. It's a waste of the protein. It's going to sit horribly in your tummy. It's not going to feel very nice. And actually, it's not giving you energy. You'd be far better off having something else.
Yeah.
Whereas after your run, if someone goes, oh, I'm having a protein shake, I'd be like, cool, but what are you having with it? Because actually, it's not just, protein is not the be all and end all. And actually, protein is only useful in the face of carbohydrate. So actually, you have to be having the carbohydrate as well for your body to A, do anything with the protein, and refueling our tanks after exercise is just as important as the protein. And whatever form that takes is fine, because sometimes, we're on the go. Like, we can't always eat perfectly, and there's no such thing as a perfect diet. So protein shakes, if we need things to be easy and you don't have another option for any form of protein, cool. But it's just looking at them going, okay, in totality with what else we're having, are they enough? Because the lean protein shakes, we'll avoid those unless you're having a banana with them. So yeah.
Nice. Combination. Pre-workout powder.
Pre-workout powder scares me.
Have you ever, when I was
the
18
tingles.
Yeah, the tingles are so weird.
Yeah, so that's from BCAAs. There's kind of the evidence on BCAAs, honestly, for the way a lot of us are exercising is probably not going to really, help us. I think a lot of people need to be aware that pre-workout powder has a huge amount of caffeine and stimulants in them. So it's not actually giving you energy. It is just a stimulant. So it's not an alternative to having a source of carbohydrate. It's just if you really want to feel pumped up. I mean, if I'm about to do a hard session, I'd much rather have a coffee because I enjoy it. And I'm getting some caffeine there. I've got some stimulant, but I'm also having my bagel, my banana, my jam, my honey. And the BCAAs, I've had the tingles from it one too many times. Oh, horrible. Can't make it stop. I feel like they had a real moment on Instagram, like the original fitness influencer, like the BCAA powder. Yeah, you see it shaking at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, pass.
Okay. Carb loading.
Love. Bye. As in, I want it all. And I will be carb loading. It's a big part of endurance sport that can actually, when we've put so much effort into months and months of training, doing something that's going to help us out in the 2 to 3 days before a marathon or 1 to 2 days before a half marathon, fantastic. It's also, though, remembering that we do not have to do it in a way that we do not feel comfortable with. And the literature would suggest 10 to 12 grams per kilogram of body weight of carbohydrate. But my massive caveat to that is that most of us are probably not eating anywhere near that amount of carbohydrate. So if you went from where you are, if that was much less, and tried to hit that amount of carbohydrate, you would feel horrible. Like, you would feel really rubbish in your race. You wouldn't enjoy it. And also, I'm not a fan of counting, measuring, weighing food. I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think it's helpful for most people. So when we're talking about carb loading, what I always talk about is kind of the proportions on our plate. So say you'd normally have half your plate full of pasta, just tick that up to 2/3. We just increase the proportion of carbs, and then we just shrink down the other bits. So we have a bit less protein, a bit less fiber, and then we still have some healthy fats. So we're not excluding anything, but we're just changing the proportions of our plate. And then we're making sure that our snacks are nice and carby. So a morning snack, an afternoon snack, a pre-bed snack. Also, drinking carbs is really good. So smoothies, fruit juice, sports drinks, things like that. But yeah, it's really useful, but we just do it in a way that works for us.
I think when I was doing my marathon, I love carbs.
Yeah.
I love carbs. And honestly, carb loading was my favourite part of marathon training. Oh my God, absolutely loved it. And then someone told me I was carb loading too much, and I was personally offended. I think there was at one point I had 4 bagels.
Fine. I regularly have 4 bagels in a day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fine. Because they went, I think I saw a video that maybe suggested that I didn't need to be doing it that much. And that made me very sad because I was thoroughly enjoying it.
And honestly, the fact that you're enjoying it is what I care about the most.
Nice.
It really is, because actually, if anyone is making comments on your food whilst you are marathon training, we'll say bye-bye to them. Like,
Good.
People should not be commenting on your food. Like, whatever you are eating is up to you. And we are doing this to make our bodies as happy and healthy. And we are the ones who have to do the marathon and know how it feels.
Yeah.
Because I've done a marathon without carb loading before and it's not fun.
Nice.
So it's actually going, you know what? You can have a way better day if you do some carb loading.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Slay. I frequently had 2 dinners every night on the lead up to it, and it was brilliant. It was absolutely phenomenal. I was like, another dinner? Yeah, why not? It was fab. Oh my God, I miss. Now I want to do another marathon. It was the most fun ever. Running on coffee.
No, it's not breakfast. It's not breakfast. So as we were saying kind of with the pre-workout, caffeine is a stimulant, not actually energy. So you're not actually getting the energy your muscles need from a coffee. If we're pairing it with, say you're putting a load of maple syrup in that coffee, fabulous, fine. That's a way to, get around that. Yeah, maple syrup and coffee is delicious. Or are we having a banana with it, or some banana bread, or a bagel, or a crumpet?
I love banana bread.
Yeah.
And crumpets.
Crumpets are great.
I'm honestly just fantasising about my week of carb loading. The way I smashed through the crumpets was just, I missed crumpets because I haven't had crumpets in school. I think I got like 2, the big Warburton crumpets as well. Sorry.
No.
Crumpet before running.
Yeah, also pancakes. You know the pancakes, like the pre-cooked pancakes you can buy?
Yeah.
Oh, those are fantastic. Anyway. But yeah, running on coffee makes me sad. And as we were saying, it's like there's a lot around coffee, and we see a lot online, and there's a lot of stuff on social media about like, oh, coffee on an empty stomach's bad, blah, 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 blah. It's all personal, right? But if you're not having a source of carbohydrate with your coffee and then you're going out for a run, it's basically fasted cardio.
Yeah. Okay. Chocolate milk.
I'm obsessed. I love it. I drink it all the time and it's my favourite.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like you were saying, like, where do we not need to be spending money? And it's on expensive post-workout shakes. So chocolate milk has a perfect ratio of protein and carbohydrate. So when I was saying earlier about those lean protein shakes and how we want a source of carbs with them, just swap them out for some chocolate milk. Because actually so we go for a 3-to-1 ratio of carbohydrate to protein. So it's actually more carbs than protein we want. And in that first kind of 20 to 30 minutes after an exercise session, so normally like moderate to intense exercise, our muscles are super receptive to nutrition. So if you give them some carbohydrates and protein, they will get right started on that recovery. So actually, when we're then wanting to, go again tomorrow or also feel better later in the day, having that bottle of chocolate milk to tide us over from ending our session to when we then follow it up with a full balanced meal can be really, really useful.
I used to feel wiped out after my long runs on the weekend. Just that was my day written off,
And it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't have to be. So having anything, even when it's like, I know sometimes when we finish a long run or an intense session, we feel a bit icky. Like you feel a bit nauseous. You feel like, oh, the last thing I want to do is eat. But I promise if you manage to get something in, you will feel remarkably better for the rest of the day. And also that kind of like 3-4 o'clock, you won't have such a bad, like often people crash then. This can really stop that. But it is also following it up with a meal kind of a few hours later. But again, this can kind of be a bit of a gateway to remind your body like, no, I do actually I want more than just, a little bit of chocolate milk. But I mean, milk is fantastic because it's got those electrolytes we were talking about. It's in your milk. It's going to help with hydration. And there's water content in there. So it's actually a real, I'm going to call it a superfood.
Nice. Okay. So I would like to come on to a big old elephant in the room, which is the rise in conversation around running influencer injuries. Because I think since the beginning of this year, there feels like there's been a huge discourse around it. Some of the opinions I find, frankly, just like a witch hunt.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a really important conversation that we need to be having. So I guess from, you are the expert in this, what is going on for people to get an injury. What are your thoughts?
I think it's really reflective of where we are as a society, of what we've also been through as a society, and also kind of, let's be honest, it's all women that are being witch hunted, right? Like, it's they're all coming for girls because, everyone wants to tear down a girl who's doing well. So actually, it's a real demonstration, and actually a very visible demonstration of what is going on, and also what we have been seeing clinically for a very long time. So marathon training is kind of a perfect storm where you're increasing exercise massively, you're increasing demand on the body, you need to be fueling enough and fueling appropriately, which actually is very difficult, especially if you don't have the appropriate support from trained professionals in your training, your nutrition, and your recovery. And as well, then, if we're also trying to live lives, have jobs, go out, be partners, be friends, be good daughters, that whole melting pot, especially when we're also like, we all want to push ourselves and we all want to do well, it then becomes really tricky to keep things balanced. And if we were all full-time athletes, we would spend we'd spend our afternoon having a sleep. We'd have someone making all our food for us. There'd be no other stress in our lives. So recovering from huge amounts of training would be a lot easier. And actually then when kind of, comparison culture comes in and then diet culture comes in and really throws the whole thing off, actually it becomes really difficult as a woman trying to train and do something that is incredibly empowering. Like training for a marathon and achieving something like that is incredible, but injuries happen. But also there is an underlying theme of this more is more is more is more is more. And actually, when we kind of take a step back from this, like there is a reason elite athletes would never do more than 2 marathons a year. And actually, if you have more than one A race in a year, you need to look at what you're doing.
What is an A race for those who don't know? Yeah,
so when people are kind of training for big goals or doing a lot of races, you might do a race for practice race experience. So like if you've not done a race before, you might do as part of your marathon training a half marathon just to like see what like a start line and the portaloos and how it all works.
But you're not aiming for a PB.
But you're not aiming for a time, and we'd call that like a B race or a practice race.
Yeah.
And we'd actually say only have one race a year that you're like, I'm really going to go for it, or I'm going to set a time, or I'm going to, have a big goal. And when we're stacking multiple big goals and we're pushing our body, we're always on that red line, eventually we're going to tip over that line. And when you're marathon training, you've got to support your body in nutrition and rest, because those two things go hand in hand. Like you can't out eat not recovering enough, but you also can't recover enough that you don't need to eat enough. So those two things need to go hand in hand. And actually when those are off or unbalanced, and there are training kind of errors, meaning that the load is too high, the intensity is too high, meaning that you cannot recover or you cannot eat enough, that's when we start then going down this continuum of low energy availability. This is when we then start seeing things like REDS, which is relative energy deficiency in sport. So that's kind of when this becomes chronic and long term. But I think also for kind of like the general running world, as clinicians, we are seeing so many more people struggling with this. And yes, there are so many more of us running, which is fantastic and amazing. So you are then naturally going to get more injuries. But the types of injuries we're seeing are these kind of stress responses. They are, recurring niggles, recurring injuries because people aren't recovering. And that's when we have to say to someone like, we need you to look at your whole life, not just the training you're doing. Because there is stress elsewhere in your life. Like, is it your job? Is it your relationships? Is there, you're trying to hold down a household, you're trying to cook, you're trying to, brush your hair. Like, there is so much going on that when someone goes, oh, I'm just, casually going to train for a marathon. So what do you mean? There's not nothing casual about it. So yeah, I think it's a real melting pot, especially when we have an element of diet culture. So yeah.
I wanted to interject because you said something really important that I hadn't considered on the specifically running influencer injuries, and actually not just running influencer injuries, but how that trickles down to everyone else who is following them. Because only one A race.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a running influencer. However, when I ran the London Marathon, I was working full time in the NHS, doing the London Marathon, but also doing it for like a big brand. Yeah. And I remember sitting at the dinner for the big brand the night before, and I was like, I think I'm going to be the slowest runner out of all the people, all the like ambassadors for this event, for the London Marathon. So I think I'm going to be the slowest runner. Like, that makes me feel really embarrassed. And I get there and I meet Jenny. If you don't know Jenny and you want to get into running, I meet Jenny, and Jenny is like, it took me 6 hours to do New York Marathon. Like, she's just an absolute bundle of joy in this world of running comparison, a beam of light and hope, and it was absolutely phenomenal. I'm not a running influencer.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, need a sub 4, need a sub 4, need a sub 4, need a sub 4. And even then in my head, so this is where it's bad. A sub 4 is a good time for a marathon, a very good time, a very respectable time for a marathon. In my head, I was walking to that, and I was on track. Didn't end up getting it, but I was on track, hopefully, for a sub 4, just about. But I was in my head, I was like, I'm going to be the slowest runner. That's ridiculous. And I remember putting so much pressure on myself. And even when I got the finish line, did a 4:12, very respectable.
Amazing.
And I got the text through from London Marathon.
Yeah.
Saw 4:12.
Yeah.
I didn't think, Faye, well done, you've just done the London Marathon.
Yeah.
I went, didn't get my sub 4.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad. And then someone gave me a full sugar Coke, and I actually felt a lot better about myself. But that immediate disappointment. And then I think about, so these running influencers who are going for sub 3s.
Yeah.
You know, they're going for sub 3 hours consistently.
Yeah.
They have hundreds of thousands of people watching them, expecting them to do that.
Yeah.
Then they are doing 4 marathons a year, even more. And each one they were trying to do a PB.
Yeah.
But then, because also I was working in an orthopaedic department in London when I was doing the marathon, or just before the marathon. And I've said this on another podcast. And we had, I think it was one of the doctors working that weekend, said there were 7 women under the age of 30 who came in with fractured hips. On the weekend of the marathon. That is, no one under 30 should be breaking their hip.
Yeah.
Categorically, this perfect storm and the comparison of running, and you know, Savannah, my friend, who, I don't know why I said that like as a pause. Savannah, my friend, she makes a point, she doesn't post her times on her Instagram because she doesn't want people to have that comparison. People get really weird. The running community, when they're like, oh, chip time this, or
don't even get me started
on the times, people get so weird. I was kind of embarrassed to post my time, which is ridiculous.
And honestly, like, that makes me feel sad, because it's like, you ran a marathon. Like, can we just have a moment for all the girls out here just casually dropping marathons? Like, and also, like, one thing about the times thing that does really annoy me is when guys compare to girls. A girl running sub 4 is absolutely not the same thing as a guy running sub 4. And also, like, there's reasons that when we look at then like qualifying times, things, they're different for men and women. But I totally agree that like the comparison culture is so difficult. Like, and seeing people like Jenny and the Runners and Stunners, I'm obsessed with them. I went to their race at the weekend. It's one of the most pure joy moments of running I've had in a long time. And actually it's going, can we celebrate what our bodies are doing? We're doing this amazing thing. Can we take a step away from this echo chamber that is just being thrown at us constantly? Like, it's the same as like marketing, right? Like, you end up in this little bubble. You've liked a few running things, so you're just being fed it constantly. And actually, it's just going to make you feel rubbish. Whereas, can we take a step away and go, let's focus on what am I actually doing this for? Because also, if you are only doing this so that you can post a certain time on your Instagram, please don't do it. Like, honestly, please don't. I'd much rather, even as the running's biggest fan, I would rather you just carried on just going to a park run once a week than signing up for a marathon if the only reason you're doing it is to be like, oh, well, I did a sub 4. It's like, no, there's so many more reasons we should be getting outside and running with our friends and having fun. That shouldn't be another way to judge ourselves on a stick against other people. And actually, we've grown up our whole lives being like, oh, can I tick this exam result? Can I tick what's next? And like a natural progression of like, I felt this of like, right, did school, did the A-levels, did the degree, did the other degree. And then I was like, oh God, what now? Like, what can I be a good girl and get a gold star for? Like, I mean, that's not why I started running marathons, I promise. But like, no, but that treadmill of like, and then you just get flung off the end. And it's like, oh, how else do I achieve? And then like, when
then you get married.
But it is, and we've been like funneled through this system where like we are constantly comparing ourselves. We are constantly having to do more. And it's like, you know what? You actually are allowed to do something just like to have fun and enjoy it and like put some glitter in your hair and like run around the streets. Like, I think it's so difficult when it does become this like competitive thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm competitive. Like, I'm not fun to play double against. Like, I'm really competitive. But I also, some of my most joyous moments have been going on like a trail when I run with my friends. We stop at the top of a mountain and eat a load of Percy pigs. Like, how fabulous.
Yeah.
And actually, as women, running in a way that is just fun and also not, you know, we don't want to end up with these like femoral neck stress fractures in our hips, because that is something that is very, very real. And I see a huge amount, because when we are in a state of low energy availability, we are not eating enough because we think healthy is a salad, whereas actually what's healthy for a runner is a massive plate of pasta. We are just hurting our bodies, and we do not want something positive to become something negative. And if anyone feels at any point that their running and their food relationship is having a negative effect, that's the perfect time to kind of reach out and speak to someone, because we do want this to be a positive thing. And actually, our relationships with food are complex. Like, there's so many layers to it, because at some points it's fuel, it's what's helping me do my run. At some point it's just functional, like I need to get through my day. And then at other times it's social and it's enjoyment and it's experimenting and it's date night. And actually looking at food going, we don't have to measure ourselves. There's no moral value on food, as there also isn't on our running. And, you know, the last thing we want is actually for those things to kind of come together and end up putting you in a place where you are hurting your hormones. The reason we see far more stress fractures in women is because of this hormonal effect. So our estrogen levels normally are protective of our bones. But when we're in a real chronic state of low energy availability, our estrogen goes down. So then we lose that protective effect on our bones. And then that's where, when we're not recovering, we're training again and again, those bones get broken down when you're running, but our body doesn't have enough energy to then spend on fixing them. So actually we see those stress injuries develop, and that's where we run into the kind of the stress fractures, the stress responses that we see, you know, the boots, the having to not run. And actually the first thing we have to correct is the energy availability. So when we say to runners, you can't run, it's not, oh, you've got a stress fracture, it's 12 weeks till you get back. It's, no, I need to see your bloods and I need to see metabolically, how much have you hurt yourself? So it is kind of going, let's just get this back to being something that's fun and positive in a way that's going to help us live long, happy, active lives.
It's really interesting you said about don't do the race if you just want to post your time, because actually I found that when I started my marathon training journey, it was A, to get myself back into an exercise habit because I'd fallen out of it whilst working in the NHS, and then B, to show other girls how I was training around like a busy job. So I started out trying to jog to work. Just jog to work just to get my like runs in a couple of times. And it's just really interesting how what became trying to show other women how I manage it around a full-time job in a realistic way became, I will have failed unless I get my sub 4. And that is really, really sad. Really sad. But the other thing that you touched on that I really want to delve into deeper is the diet culture, the food aspect of it. And this is why I don't like the way it was a witch hunt for these running injuries, because I think that women are fighting a losing battle when they're constantly told to be smaller. They're told carbs are bad, and then they end up with a running injury, and then suddenly everyone thinks they're awful as well. You know, for the girlies who are scared of carbs, for the girlies who have felt the pressures of diet culture, is there any advice that you can give them?
Yeah, because it is so difficult. And I think we all feel it, right? And our relationship with food is on a real spectrum.
Yeah.
And I think it's also remembering that we will have peaks and troughs and it'll come in waves, and also look at what part of your cycle you're maybe in, because I know I have certain days where my brain is wide open to diet culture and I just want to pick myself apart and like, but then it's going, okay, so what do I hook back onto? So one of the things that I always find really helpful for people is find your why and hook onto that. So is your why of, I want to have healthy bones and I want to have babies in the future. Because for me, at one point in my life, that was my hook. It was bones and babies.
Yeah.
That was the reason that I wanted to fuel myself. But I'd got into a really tricky, sticky hole at that point. Whereas now it might be, what is the best choice that I can make right now to feel better later or to run better tomorrow? Like, if I don't have a proper dinner tonight, am I going to be able to do my session tomorrow? No, I'll have a horrible time and then I won't feel proud of it. And actually, me completing my session and feeling proud of it is important to me. And that's allowed and that's okay. So I need to, therefore, make sure I've done the things that I can control to make that better. And I also think having kind of that feelings focus versus that body focus can be really helpful. So thinking about the way food makes us feel rather than actually, am I going to have a low-fat yogurt and a kiwi for breakfast? So if I have that for breakfast, 20 minutes or an hour or 2 hours later, am I going to feel satiated? Am I still going to feel full? Am I going to be able to focus on my work? Or am I going to be constantly thinking about food? And then you go, actually, yeah, I'm going to be constantly thinking about food. I'm going to be really hungry. I'm going to be going, when's lunch? What am I having as a snack? Oh God, you're going to be telling yourselves things that you might have core beliefs around food. And you might be telling core things that you think about yourself. Whereas actually, if you'd gone, okay, I'm going to have 2 slices of toast, some avocado and some eggs. Or I'm going to have a yogurt I'm going to keep that yogurt, but I'm going to have granola and I'm going to have some peanut butter for some healthy fats. You then sail through your morning because you've got loads of energy, you're feeling great. You get to lunchtime and you're like, wow, cool. Like, that made me feel so much better. And I was then able to fulfill my morning value of doing a good job. And I was able to show up for the person I was having coffee with, or I was able to do the thing that was actually important to me. So it's almost looking at different times being like, okay, where do I feel with my relationship with food today? So what do I need to do? And for some people I work with, we'll set just non-negotiables of like, you will have 3 meals in a day and you will have snacks in between. And that's just the baseline non-negotiable. We don't need to think about it. If things are feeling wobbly, what's our go-to? Like, what is our default go-to breakfast? At the office, what is my default lunch? Because not having lunch, like, that's probably not the best choice.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do that's going to help future you? And I think that is that kind of aspect of, if we think back to like little versions of us, like, we always have a different viewpoint on the person we were then. Like, even if you think back to yourself, like at school, you're like, oh, what was I doing then? Like, you would have different things to say than you had at that time. So it's just remembering that in kind of 5 years from now, you also will have different things to say. And I guarantee you will forget eventually what time you ran your marathon in. You will just go, I ran the London Marathon and I trained for it whilst I was working full time. I managed to help show other girls that they can do this. How cool is that? Rather than going, oh, do you remember that one time when I ended up eating this or whatever, or I didn't do this or I did do that or whatever. It's just like zooming out and going, it's okay, like, you're okay and you can do this, but just next best choice. Like, what can we do there?
Love, that's so fab. We're going to come on to the signs to look out for if you could be on your way to an injury. But first, we have a section on the podcast called Real or Not Real. I am going to show you a video from social media and I would like to hear your thoughts because there's a lot of misinformation.
Oh, there's so much.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. Even I get overwhelmed. And like, I have academically researched a lot of this stuff and I get overwhelmed even sometimes. So yeah, it's just a slippy slope.
Yeah. Sometimes I see things on social media and I'm like, I've never heard of that. And then I'm like, wait, no, Faye, you've never heard of that because it's not real. Like,
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, have I missed like a research paper? Yeah, like, have I missed something groundbreaking here? And then you go, no, this is just an AI chat health account that's like pulled something out of nothing.
If we find it hard...
Oh, imagine, yeah.
I don't know how other people navigate it. That's what makes me really, really scared.
Did you know that really weird things happen to you when you run a marathon? These are some of the weirdest things I found on Google.
So did you know that you can actually shrink by up to 2 centimetres? That is called spinal compression. It is because of hours and hours of pounding the pavement. It basically causes the fluid between your spinal discs to decrease. Don't worry though, it is temporary. Fact number 2, your feet will swell and sometimes by a whole shoe size. And that is due to the blood rushing to your working muscles and heat causes fluid to pool in your extremities. Now if you have found yourself a bit poorly or a bit unwell this week with a cold, that is because your immune system system crashes. So after about 90 minutes of continuous effort, cortisol, which is your stress hormone, rises and your immune function drops. Many runners get sick in the days after. Now, the weirdest fact of them all, your body eats itself, well, kind of. So once your glycogen stores are running low, your body starts to break down muscle protein for energy. New research has even suggested that extreme sports like the marathon may cause the brain to temporarily use its own fatty substances, which means that your brain might eat itself. So if you cross the finish line feeling a bit sore, a bit shorter and mildly unhinged, congratulations, you are normal. Running a marathon is basically a full body science experiment, and you nailed it.
Any thoughts?
I mean, I don't hate it. And, you know, nuance doesn't do well on social media. Which is, you know, really sad for us girls who like to see both sides of the story. And, you know, when we're selling things like that in a package that makes... I would hate anyone to watch that video and think, oh, no, a marathon is bad for me. Like, that's what concerns me around things like that. But, I mean, do you... technically, I mean, you're not shrinking. This is a normal thing. Like when you wake up, you're taller than when you go to sleep. It's called gravity.
Yeah.
It's you know, that's actually what our bodies, that's absolutely fine. That's normal. That's not just in a marathon.
Yeah.
The person supporting the marathon will also, you know, and anyone else in the world on that day will also have the same thing.
Yeah.
The eating ourselves thing. When we break down science to communicate it, we have to be quite careful about the language we use. And if that is triggering anyone or making people think, you know, bad things are happening, no, it's actually your body's super smart. And, you know, when we're talking about carb loading, like the whole point is we're filling up those glycogen tanks. Yeah. And, you know, it's not eating itself. It's a metabolic biological function of your body, of how it produces energy. And, you know, that's why we take on gels, because we top up those, you know, we top up our blood sugars. We actually, there's actually a lot of really interesting research about how gels work, how glycogen works. We store it in our muscles and our liver. Our liver has a lot more to do with kind of supporting our blood glucose and our brain function. So our brain has almost an alert system of going, how much is in the fuel tank, guys? Like, you know, like the alert on a car. Yeah. Our brain's running that. And actually, so that's kind of where the liver glycogen comes in, taking on sugars. It's not eating itself, and it's not bad. That's actually what we are training to happen. And actually part of marathon training is allowing yourself to build up even better glycogen stores. So yeah, things happen to your body during a marathon, but things happen to your body day to day. But yeah, it's not also, cortisol's not the bad thing that's happening here. Cortisol's not inherently a bad thing, which I also is something on social media that I think gets a really bad rap.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, your stress hormone. The words, I mean, I know I've said stress hormones because there is a huge list. And actually, if we go too into scientific detail around it, it can be really overwhelming. But there are ways of communicating scientific knowledge that are helpful. And
yeah, because that's it. It's you want it to be accessible, but you don't want it to be dilute the meaning.
Yeah.
But did you say something earlier about like how making sure that you've got enough glucose and making sure you're fueling properly can really help with that cortisol response? Yeah.
So it's kind of in that faster training in that morning window. So especially like with female hormones, it's almost a signal to your body of you're okay if you take on some carbohydrate in the morning. So actually, often kind of recovery from low energy availability, we get people to eat really, really as soon as they wake up, because it can be a real sign to your body of like, oh, okay, cool, fine, guys, there's no alerts going off, we're not in famine, we're fine. And that comes from carbohydrate, because actually energy being available in the body reduces overall stress. Like you can't be in a fight or flight mode if you're digesting. Like rest and digest and fight and flight can't happen at the same time. So it's almost just reminding our body and building trust in it and going, no, it's okay. Like carbohydrate, see, we're fine. We're choosing to exercise. But yeah, carbohydrate has a massive effect on our body.
It's actually ridiculous how many of these episodes always end up coming back to your body knowing it's safe.
Yeah.
We've done specific episodes on nervous system regulation, but we had a public speaking episode we recorded this morning that we came back to nervous system regulation and understanding your nervous system. It's such a key component. Yeah. It's really so interesting.
It is, because our bodies are so smart. And it's actually going, where we've optimized so many parts of our lives and we're trying to like optimize everything, we actually just can't control a lot of the stuff that's happening in our bodies. Like, I can't control right now that my bone cells are kind of replenishing, and I'm not doing that on purpose, but they are.
Yeah.
And like everything else that's going on in my body's super smart, and we've got to trust it even when it's not seen.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the opposite of the things we're told in other areas of our lives. But yeah, it's a lot about just keeping our bodies safe, keeps them happy.
Nice. We've got some community questions and then we'll come on to how the girlies can spot the signs before they get injured.
Cool.
So we have, what should you actually eat before a run?
So depends on how long you're going for and how intense it is. But we're basing the whole pre-run meal on carbohydrates and simple, easy to digest carbohydrates. So forget about the protein, forget about the fats, forget about the fiber. Something like crumpets with jam, fantastic. Anything that is carbohydrate based, that is easy to digest, so those simple carbohydrates. The longer you're running for, you will obviously need more. But if we're doing shorter runs, we can have less. So it's actually kind of dialing it with intensity and duration, but making sure it's based on that carbohydrate.
Nice. A lot of our community wanted to know if you have any tips for improving running time.
It's one of those things with running time of it does come with practice. And it's one of those things of you can't go from 0 to 100, but consistency is the biggest thing with running, and following a training plan where you've got variation. So we do want easy runs where we run slower because that's really good for our aerobic endurance. We do want interval sessions where we're pushing ourselves and running fast because you do have to run faster to be faster. And actually building a training block together, being consistent over a long amount of time is where we're going to see the biggest improvements. But actually saying that, people who do about 80% of their training plan, they've done studies where actually those people do better in the race than people who hit 100% every single one, because there is an element of still listening to our bodies. So if you wake up and you are knackered and your legs feel horrible because you've been out dancing or you've, done something else, you've been on your feet all day, doing that really intense run is not a good idea. So actually it's going, as well as that good training, we need that good recovery. But it's looking at it long term, and you will just keep improving.
Because I guess the perfectionist, high achiever girlies who fall into the category of often falling into marathons because they need another good girl star to say.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know who would do that. I fell into the trap of like easy run. There was no such thing as an easy run.
Yeah.
Like easy run meant a failure to half-arse an easy run, you know? And then I saw a video on social media basically saying your easy run should actually be like slow and easy.
Yeah.
And then I think that's where the social media comparison came in, because I was like, I can't see people that see that I did a 6 minute kilometer.
Yeah.
That can't be on my Strava.
Yeah. And it's so hard, isn't it? Like, that's why I say to a lot of people, actually, have your default on Strava that people can't see it. So that's what I have, is the default is that people don't see it. So you have to actually change it to be like, whoa, look at this thing I did.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone sees it. And actually, the whole point of your training is to make your race day as best as possible for you. And it's your race and it's your run. And I guarantee if you are running your easy runs too hard, they'll feel horrible. You won't be recovering properly. Then you won't be able to do your hard sessions actually hard. So then you're not getting the most out of your training plan. Whereas then if you dial back those easy days and go, I need to be able to chat on the phone, or I need to be able to talk to the person next to me. We're then going to get a coffee and then walk home. And it's going to be lovely. Making that the focus, not the, I'm doing a run, so I need to, make it X, Y, Z. Your training will benefit massively. But it's really hard. And it's also kind of, when I first started running, I used to think that every single run I had to be faster. And that if I wasn't faster than I'd done it last time, that then it was like not good. Whereas,
bingo,
right?
Twin.
Yeah. And then I started doing more stuff, and I was like, then part of athletics time, I was like, oh, I've been doing this so wrong. And then I started doing these runs. I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. This is so nice. And now I love an easy run. I used to hate them because I'd be like, oh, like you said, it felt like a failure. Whereas now I'm like, sweet, I can just bop along, listen to a podcast. Fantastic. So yeah, it is just about almost, even if you just have a little read up of like, what is the point of this? Why am I doing this in my training plan? Because I also think for some of us, like understanding the reason of why I'm doing something helps you then actually do it. So if we can kind of then be like, okay, this is why I'm doing it, then we can apply it.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. This is a good one.
Okay.
The girlies, they're doing their running. Mm-hmm. How can they stop themselves getting an injury before it happens? How can they spot the signs that they are going down a slippery slope?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things with marathon training, half marathon training, any type of training, is actually learning to listen to your body is one of the best skills that you can develop. So it's then being able to kind of dial in to what's actually happening. So first one being kind of how is your body feeling? So if you've got niggles and you've got injury, you've got things that don't feel right, do not run on them. Like, go and see someone and get them checked out firstly. If they're, shooting pains, weird sensations, tightness, pulling that's not going away, don't run on them, because nothing good is going to happen. The longer we delay having an injury assessed, the longer that injury is likely to persist for, and the longer it'll take you to get back to running. It's going to be, we don't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
But then actually to not get to that point, a huge part of that is recovering and eating properly. So recovering properly means sleeping enough and also having time off your feet. So if you're doing your long run and then you're like, oh yeah, I'll come for a really long walk in the park with you. Oh, maybe let's just go for a sat down coffee. We want time off feet.
Okay.
And actually our rest days have to actually be restful. Like going for a really long walk is not a rest day. So they're all kind of things that we can do to like protect our recovery. But then in terms of going, okay, am I eating enough? Firstly, are you hungry? And actually, if you're hungry, you should be eating. So when people say, oh, I'm not allowed, or it's not the right time, or like, no, we're listening to our body. Our body doesn't know what time it is. Our body doesn't care what time it is. If our body is hungry and it needs something, it will ask for it. And we have to respond to that and actually go, the best thing I can do is listen to what my body's asking for and give it something. So even if it's, it's an early dinner, it's early breakfast, sometimes I eat lunch at 10:30 because I'm hungry and I want lunch, and then I have 2 lunches, and that's absolutely fine. It's kind of, we've been drilled into eating in a certain way, and you don't have to do that. So yeah, firstly, listening to your hunger. But then actually sometimes when we're doing a lot of exercise, our hunger signals can change and you don't get that traditional like growling tummy or things like that. Like, I get really sleepy is one of my things. I also get super thirsty, but actually I'm not thirsty, I'm really hungry. Or you might get really foggy.
Sorry, I just need to interject. Like, I love my mum's pieces, but my mum unintentionally perpetuates a lot of diet culture.
The rule about the glass of water.
Well, you're not hungry, you're thirsty. Yeah. So it's really interesting that you've said, I get thirsty, but I'm actually hungry, because I think that poor my mum's generation, they were force-fed diet culture like it was going out of fashion. And she would go, Faye, are you sure you're hungry, or do you need a glass of water?
Yeah. And then you end up drinking so much water that you're so bloated.
Yeah.
And then you go, but I still feel weird. No, it's probably because you're hungry.
Yeah.
I also get really nauseous. Feeling sick is a sign of hungry. Headaches, things like that. Feeling really foggy. Also, if when you are eating, you are transforming to a different human being and you get a whole new personality, you're fundamentally not eating enough. So it's also going that. And it's one of those things of like, sometimes we get hangry. It's all funny. But if that is happening every time you eat, that you're so like woozy and like dizzy almost, that when you eat, you then are like, whoa, I'm back to life. We need to be having more meals and more snacks. And then also kind of mental health wise, if your mood is really, really dipping and progressively over your weeks of your training plan, your mood is getting lower and lower, it's a real sign actually energy could be an issue. Not being able to sleep is a big one. So actually, if you are knackered, you're getting into bed and you just cannot sleep, you're wide awake, or you're waking up at like 2-3 o'clock in the night, you're needing to use the loo in the middle of the night, you're waking up in the morning, you're still knackered, could be an energy thing. And one big one as well, weight loss is not a sign of low energy availability, in terms of you can be weight stable and not be eating enough. And we see that with a lot of people, that actually you can be a very healthy weight stable, but still underfueled.
Is that because of the whole calories in versus calories out is a major contributor to weight loss or weight gain?
Yeah.
But then the energy availability is what is linked to the hormones.
Yes, it's the way our body is responding. So when we're in a state of low energy availability, our body's going, right, I can't reduce the amount of energy I'm spending on exercise. I can't reduce the amount I'm spending on work, on socializing. But you know what I can do? I can reduce the amount I'm spending on biological processes. So I can turn down the temperature. So your thermoregulation, I'm going to make you pretty cold all the time. I'm going to dial down your recovery. So that's when your bone turnover starts going down. I'm not going to help you recover that injury. Nah, never mind. Your hair, your nails get brittle, things like that. And actually, as part of that, what your body is doing is it is shrinking the amount of energy it needs to be able to, go about its daily day. So in that case, you're underfueled because your body has shrunk down the amount it's spending on your physiological processes. You are not functioning optimally. So actually, if you ate more, your body will go, oh, it's great, I've got some more energy to spend. Like, I can warm up. Those hormones, they can come back. We can switch that back on. So it's actually going in every body. It will choose to kind of approach this differently. So it's going, just because you haven't lost weight does not mean you're eating enough. And I think that's a really big thing for us to remember, because we are told all the time, like, oh, it's calories in versus calories out. And it's just not that simple, because our bodies aren't calculators. And as we've said, like, they're obsessed with being safe and surviving. And if that's the way your body's decided to survive at this moment, that's what it's doing, because it wants to hold on to as much energy as possible, because it doesn't know it doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow. There might be another lion. There might be, someone else coming to attack you. It doesn't know what that stress is. So it's actually going, there's not always these typical kind of responses of our body that we might expect.
Bit of a topical question. Where have you seen any influence that Ozempic or other GLP-1s has had in this space?
Yeah, so it's really tricky with kind of, there's the like elite athlete kind of argument with around the GLP-1s of actually like, is it a performance enhancer? Is it, what's going to happen with this?
Why would it be considered a performance enhancer?
Well, so
excuse my ignorance.
No, not at all. Yeah, because it is a really interesting kind of thing to look at. So in kind of weight to power ratio sports, it could be, in theory, a performance enhancer. So the World Anti-Doping Association are still deciding,
because you can have more control over.
So
okay,
a cyclist, their weight to power is really important. So if the week before their competition they can drop a load of weight really quickly, they are just as powerful, but they have less weight to shift. So actually, are they therefore going to produce more force? So they're going to be faster. But then we're looking at kind of an endurance sport like running. Fundamentally, a GLP-1 is stopping you taking in as much energy as your body needs to undergo and support all of those processes. So actually, if that was being used long term, you would very, very quickly fall into low energy availability. You'd end up with a stress fracture and you'd end up dropping out of sport. So in that case, it's quite clear it's not going to be enhancing performance unless it's kind of short-term manipulation. And then we're kind of going down elite aspects. But in kind of day-to-day general populations, I am personally very, very concerned around the narratives of GLP-1s, exercise, weight loss, vulnerability of our mental health to, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be smaller. Like, I've spent my whole life pretty much trying to train myself again and retrain my whole adult life that it is okay to take up space. It is okay to fuel myself. And it is absolutely okay to have big goals and shoot for them. But you know what? I cannot do that if I'm starving hungry. And it's almost like another way of just controlling our bodies and making us all shrink again. And it's terrifying. Like, it makes me so sad for like all those future little girls that I've been like literally fighting my life to help other women go, it's okay to fuel yourself, when this is just getting thrown back at us again. It's like, is this is how far we're going to try and shrink women again? And can we just not? Like, because I guarantee I do. The thought of someone trying to marathon train or do endurance sport whilst on a GLP-1 makes me very, very concerned for their health. And this is where it then becomes a health issue with regulation and kind of who has the duty of care here when you can buy this off the internet? Like, who is looking out for these people? Because actually, we already know there's so much going on in our lives, so much pressure. We'll throw another kind of big scary thing in where there is also just the research, like, oh.
And I know an obscene amount of people who are on it who are a healthy weight.
Yeah. And that's also what I find really, really hard of like, okay, it's a health drug. Yeah. For people who need it, who are medically unhealthy, and there is a use case for a medical life-longing, medication, fine. That is a use case where it's a drug. It's incredible. But for a normal healthy weight, we then need to look at, okay, so why are you trying to lose weight? What do you fundamentally think is so wrong with how you are existing in the world that is telling you to lose weight? And that's what makes me sad, because I can, if I think of a room of girls having dinner, how many of them have got thoughts in their head telling them like, oh, watch that, think about, oh, are you sure about that? Or are you sure about this? Like, we already have that existing, living rent-free in most of our heads. And we didn't put it there. Someone else put it there. And actually, all of us, we work so hard to be like, no, I'm okay. Can I be okay? And then when that, then like you say, for normal people on a normal healthy weight, do we know what long-term this is doing? And also mentally, like are you going to be on this drug forever? Like we already know there's research around kind of when you come off it, what it does to bodies. And actually then we're opening a whole new thing. And like, oh, it's so true, because it is that link between body, exercise and health, as well as then if we're trying to promote performance in there, like so much pressure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just makes me sad around like female bodies, because also we're getting to the point where so many people are having like menstrual hormonal effect from not eating enough, because they think they're not allowing themselves to have enough food, that we then see that knock on into their fertility and changes in menstrual cycle. And people go, oh, they used to think it was fine that athletes lost their periods. We now know that is incredibly wrong and untrue. And actually, as female athletes, we should not be losing our periods. They should not be getting shorter. They should not be getting longer. They should be regular. And if you are running and training for something or whatever, and you have a healthy, regular cycle, I am thrilled for you. That's your gold star. Like, that's fantastic. And then if we're saying, okay, so lose some weight, lose some body fat, well, your hormones aren't going to like that. So then we're going down the road of, okay, so we've now thrown this off again. So yeah, I think it's a really scary thing, more from not the drug itself, but more just what it says about like the pressures on women.
Yeah, no, 100%. You mentioned the menstrual cycle.
Mm-hmm.
What role do you think that plays in spotting the signs and signs of if you're heading towards an injury? But also, do you have any advice on the girlies on birth control?
Yeah, absolutely. So our menstrual cycle is one of the biggest indicators that our body is happy and healthy, because if it thinks it can bring a baby into the world, it's happy, right? Like there's enough resources around. So if there are changes to our menstrual cycle, we really need to listen to them, because that's a case where I often say you need to listen to your body whispering before it screams. So if your cycle, either the total cycle length or your bleed length are getting shorter or are getting longer, and that's happening multiple months, you need to look at what is going on. So if you're not on hormonal contraception, that's obviously quite easy to see. You know, if you're tracking your cycle, are the lengths changing? Or if you're on a coil, that can also, again, some people find they have some sort of hormonal cycle. So it's just knowing what's normal for your body.
Yeah.
And if your body's going away from what's normal. But if we're on kind of a hormonal implant, we can also look at blood work. So you can get your bloods done and look at your menstrual hormones. And even if you have a coil, we can see where your estrogen level is. So actually we can go, well, your estrogen is through the floor. So actually your body's not happy and healthy. But it's also just, knowing that, yeah, okay, if you're on the pill or on hormonal contraception, that is a sign we're losing. So then you just need to be really, really keyed in to what the other signs are. Another quite good one is if your spots or paper cuts or little nicks you're getting aren't healing properly and are taking ages to go away, that's just another sign that your body's like not that happy and that things aren't quite where they need to be. So it's just like little things of like, are things changing from my baseline?
That's a really interesting one because we're not from a running perspective, but I remember in my first year as a doctor and I just was like, why are these cuts not bloody? Like I'd just get a nick and it would just, I'd be like, why are you not going away? And at the time, I think I was living off like a thing of fuel to get me through a 12-hour shift. Like it was just awful, dreadful, Yeah. But that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and it is, and it's just everybody going like, right, okay, lads, we've not got the energy for this, so scrap it. It's not important.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing. If we want our body to be able to, do everything it wants to do in the way it wants to do it, and then we're happy.
That has been so unbelievably helpful. I have learned so much from that episode. And I think that so many of the girls listening will also have learned a huge amount. So thank you so much, Siân. Before we finish the episode, we've got a question that we ask all the guests, which is, Siân, what do you wish every woman knew before the age of 25?
It's a big one. Oh, it's such a big one. I wish they knew that fueling yourself for your life is the biggest gift you can give your future self, and actually only positive things come from allowing yourself to fuel your life and your goals and your body.
gorgeous. What a perfect way to end. Thank you so much. And we will leave all the links for how you can find Siân on her socials down below.
Thank you.